The objective of practicing Buddhism and cultivating one's mind. Once we have set an objective for cultivating the mind, we must ask ourselves, how do we cultivate our minds? How do we purify it? The answer depends on your mind's ability to comprehend. That is called enlightenment. To get enlightened is to understand. We always talk about the desire to become enlightened. However, with the principles already laid out clearly, the law of cause and effect, cyclical rebirths, karmic conditions, and destiny, what else are we meant to awaken to? In reality, everything we encounter in our daily lives, such as the moon, a flower, the grass, or a tree, provides us with opportunities to become enlightened and deepen our understanding of life. Enlightenment is a cyclical process in which we practice the teachings of Buddha Dharma and apply it to our everyday lives. And from the experiences of doing so, we gain a deeper understanding of the Buddha Dharma. Then, we reapply what we have learned back into our everyday lives, and the process repeats itself. This is similar to preparing for a test, where, in doing our exercises, we constantly and repetitively apply the guiding principles. From these exercises, we keep learning to master the basic concepts until we reach a level of proficiency such that we are freely able to put the theory into practice. In the process of cultivation, each time we apply the Buddha Dharma correctly, the level of our spirituality will be elevated accordingly. Nevertheless, even if we did well on 9 consecutive attempts, but erred on the 10th, all previous efforts will have come to naught. That's why cultivation of the mind is like treading on thin ice. Many fellow practitioners have very thoroughly studied the Buddhist teachings expounded by the Master, gaining an in-depth grasp of his teachings and cultivating diligently. This is an encouraging sign, indicating that practitioners fully appreciate the unique excellence of this Buddhist practice. However, in light of many questions posted online and considering how practitioners handle interpersonal relationships, it is evident that many are still at the stage of struggling to repay their karmic debts. These practitioners are yet to grasp that the Buddha Dharma is closely intertwined with our daily lives, and that learning about Buddhism begins with the learning about the basic principles of being a moral person. Although some may seem to have tamed their temper through their efforts in reciting Buddhist scriptures, they have done no self-reflection or even tried proactively to identify and correct their shortcomings. In other words, they have yet to take the initiative to apply Buddhist teachings in their daily lives and to practice what they have learned personally. For example, when it comes to cultivating the Buddhist teachings of morality, precepts, concentration, and wisdom, many people still do not understand what precepts are to be observed, or even why it is necessary to observe the precepts in the first place, why it is that observing the precepts will give rise to concentration. What does concentration mean? These are questions we must get to the bottom of. Similarly, we need to fully comprehend the many conclusions derived from our predecessors' past experiences and identify the basic principles behind these conclusions. Only then will we be able to understand why our predecessors reached these conclusions. For example, why is it that we are unable to practice diligent cultivation when we practice forbearance in the face of humiliation? On which theory is that based? Why is the concept of non-self given so much emphasis, and what its purpose? Not only should you gain an understanding of the theories, you also need to put them into practice. You can't just apply the theories mechanically. You need to fully understand them so that you can draw influences from other cases. This is similar to our study of mathematics and the application of those mathematical theorems. Therefore, enlightenment is not something distant nor abstract. In fact, in our daily practice of Buddhism, we are gradually being awakened without even knowing it. We get to learn how to perform recitations of Buddhist scriptures and understand how performing recitations can change our lives for the better. The next step for a Buddhist practitioner is to systematically and consciously practice Buddhism in order to attain enlightenment. One should be more inquisitive and ask more questions in order to understand more guiding principles. Buddhist practitioners have a good understanding of these guiding principles, so that they do not dare to commit bad deeds, just like people who know the law do not dare to commit offenses.